Hey everyone, it's Marcy with Magical Maven, and today I wanted to talk about how to use crystals for bereavement, for grief, for loss, and for sadness. I think that these are conversations that a lot of people don't want to have because they are such touchy subjects. But I think that with working with crystals, it's given me a different perspective on how to help utilize the crystal energy in working with those emotions that really need to be tackled, even though a lot of people don't want to touch them because it's scary, it's painful, and it is work. So I just thought that I would bring up a couple of crystals that are really, really wonderful, gentle, and effective when you do begin to want to do this work. So lepidolite, I talked about in a different video. Lepidolite is very emotionally distressing, and I think that when we are going through something emotionally devastating, we automatically are in a flight mode from ourselves. Shock puts us outside of ourselves, which is why when we're in shock, we really have no clue what's going on. And I think that once that shock wears off and we come back into ourselves, we are then bombarded with a hurricane of emotions that we don't even have the tools and the awareness to begin to tackle. So I think that when using crystals and using something like lepidolite, there's a very warm, soft, antidepressant energy that is in these type of crystals, in the lepidolite, that helps soften that path of going inside and really having to take a look at that grief and really having to identify the sadness and the sorrow that we feel. And I think that it's something that is crucial to our evolution as a human. I think it's crucial to our natural spirit. I think it's crucial to our body because unhealed emotions will end up having a physical happening. We might have a sore neck, we might have bad knees or joints. Tissue holds emotions, unhealed emotions, and that tissue will often begin to create other things that are going to happen in the body when we begin to not take a look at it. So as much as it's a really sucky, shitty thing that we have to do, it's part of being human. It's something that every single one of us is affected by. We all have suffered loss. We all will suffer grief. We will all suffer some sort of bereavement. That's life, unfortunately. But there are definitely healthy tools that I'm going to show you and give you that you can incorporate into your process of grieving and being okay in your sadness and getting through it to the best that you can. So I really like lepidolite a lot. You can sleep with them in your pillowcase, you can carry them in your pocket, you can get tumbled stones. I made a bracelet that has lepidolite that is basically prayers for the grieving, that's to help support. It's like an energetic support group around your wrist. Another really wonderful one is azurite. Azurite is very, very healing. There's something that happens when we are sad, when we're grief-stricken. We are not aware of ourselves. We become very confused. Nothing is going in, and we're operating on not being present. We're very robotic with our ways because our heart and our emotional center is so frozen that we're basically in a state of confusion and emotional chaos and not understanding what's going on. Azurite is really, really wonderful with being able to diffuse some of that confusion, to energetically soften all the ideas that need to come through, that need to be felt, that need to be expressed. I know Azurite is really wonderful with being able to communicate those feelings, being able to add communication so the healing can begin to be addressed. I think that there is something to say about a time process with grieving. I think that an allotted time is necessary, and I think that it should start happening after the shock wears off. I think that while we're in shock, it's really hard to begin anything, any process, but when the shock starts to wear off, it is then time to begin that process of grieving. And then once we get through the process of grieving, we can begin to understand the emotional attributes that come with it, the sadness, the other feelings that come out of it, the anger, the resentment. These are all things that really need to be identified, because they will end up manifesting and creating other outputs that might have been so unnecessary if we just sat in our tears and sat in our pain and sat in that sadness. And Azurite is really beautiful to instruct that, to start to clear the confusion, begin to bring some healing into the mind, into the vision of it. Azurite is just really, really wonderful. You can use Azurite and lepidolite together. And then the other one I have is obsidian. And obsidian to me is very much the mourner's stone. And this really takes you to that mourning place. I know for a lot of people who are needing to grieve and needing to mourn will do whatever they can to avoid it, and they will find any kind of opportunity to step away from it that will busy them in order to not have to be in that place, because it is so devastating. The finality of it, the sadness of it, the isolation, the loneliness from it. And I think that when you avoid it, you are prolonging the inevitable. And I think that because we have this fear of death, there's a natural fear of grieving. And I would really like to just soften that for a moment and tell you that grieving needs to happen. It needs to exist. It humanizes us. It's what makes us human. And the animal kingdom, we as a collective species have this gift that we can mourn, that we can feel to the deepest places within ourselves and to the farthest places outside of ourselves. I think that mourning is as sad as it is, it can also be a very cathartic, most beautiful experience being a human being. And once you are able to get through that period, there might be a lot of opportunities on the other side of it, and ways that you can give back, because as human beings, it's something that we all go through. And I know from my own experience, having to grieve some losses that have really put me to the ground, I know that when someone asks for my help, I'm able to give them my experience and offer them hope and encouragement. And I think that when you're able to go through these processes, it makes it collective and unifying. And so I think it's something that, of course, is devastating in that moment, and it's something that none of us really knowingly signed up for, but unfortunately, as life, there is death, and with any loss, there is the emotional attributes that follow, and it is essential for your health to be able to get through this process, so you can begin to shift into the next element part of your life. And I think it is essential part of being human to honor this aspect that is the flip side of all the joy and the happiness, and it's with the trials and the tribulations. I mean, it's the duality. It's the duality of life. You need to have one to have the other, and you need to have the other to have the one. You know, it's knowing both, knowing and healing through both. And so I think Obsidian is a great, great tool to really get you and take you to those places, to be able to grieve, to allow yourself to fully express that sorrow and that pain unapologetically, sometimes in the safety of your own space. Because I know, and I am very guilty of this, it is very difficult for me to watch somebody else be in so much pain and not be able to help them. And the truth is that the greatest help you can give somebody that is grieving is just to be with them, just to allow them, not to tell them to shake it off, not to tell them to get over it, not to give them all your advice and your experience. That comes later, that comes after. But the beginning grieving process is just sharing space in that dark moment. And Obsidian, for those of you who are having a hard time getting to that place to finally allow it. I know people who have suffered a loss and didn't grieve until 10 years later that loss, because it took them 10 years to get to that place that they could begin grieving. And so I think that it's a conversation that really needs to happen. And working with crystals and doing my own personal work and my own reflection, these are just the beautiful crystals that have helped me. So I'm sorry to have this conversation with you all. I think it's very, very, very important to have. I think that it is something that I think needs to be discussed more, and not in such a negative, bad light, because again, it's something that we all go through and that we're all privy to. But there are definitely crystals and 100,000 different outlets that you can get into support groups to help yourself through this process. I, of course, specialize with the crystal energy and just wanted to offer those of you who might be struggling that are watching this. I have a couple of bracelets listed on my online shop at magicalmaven.myshopify.com that are tools to wear during the healing. And then you can also buy obsidian, you can get the azurite, you can get lepidolite, selenite, which is another great one that's just purifying that to work with all three of these crystals. There's just a ton of stuff outside of the normal stuff that people talk about. And so I just wanted to really bring that to your attention today. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to not leave this on such a downer, so I wish everybody love and light. And those of you who are in this area of process and you would like some more information from me, or you want to ask me questions, feel free to message me in my Facebook Messenger, on my Instagram at magicalmaven2. You can email me at magicalmaven@yahoo.com. And I hope that this was slightly helpful for such a Debbie Downer conversation. But again, it's the duality of life. With love and light, there needs to be the other aspect of it, and they all coincide and work together. So I wish you a lot of love, a lot of light again, and I hope this finds you with peace and with harmony. Thanks.